Jurickson Profar is back tonight, and to make that happen, Alex Verdugo has been designated for assignment. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on into a celebratory live edition of Braves Today for Wednesday, July 2nd. This is your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. Thank you to everybody who's already here on the live show. I'll say hi to everybody when they show up in a few minutes. Reminder, anybody on audio, if we're answering questions and things like that, I'll do my best to read them out loud to you. I do appreciate y'all as well. As Chipper706 says in the comments, happy no more Verdugo on the roster day. This episode is coming out later than usual because I was waiting for some sort of news to confirm that to reinstate Jurickson Profar, the decision Atlanta was going to make was designated Alex Verdugo for assignment. The team has not officially announced that yet. Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic has said that Verdugo was designated for assignment this morning. Mark Bowman of MLB.com, the Braves beat writer, has confirmed that. So again, we don't have an official announcement, but it is in fact happening. And it's going to be interesting to see what Profar can do. We're going to get to him in a second. I want to talk about Alex Verdugo first. And part of the reason of this is this has strangely really bothered me for a while, that Alex Verdugo has still had a job on the Atlanta Braves. And this is not anything about Alex Verdugo as a person. From everything that I have read, from people that I've talked to, he is liked in the clubhouse. Like, he is a good teammate, despite what some people believe. He is a good teammate, and he is liked in the clubhouse. What this is about for me is the fact that from a, say, participation standpoint, but from a contribution standpoint, he's not actually giving you a lot. And I broke this down. Today was the third time in the last month and change that I think it's maybe 5 weeks, that I have written an article about it's time for Alex Verdugo to leave Atlanta. And it finally happened. I'm not going to go sit there and go through every single reason why Alex Verdugo no longer being on the Braves makes sense. But what I think I'm going to kind of just briefly explain is, think about how the Atlanta Braves have used their roster in recent years. The Braves significantly play. They mostly play their guys every single day. Matt Olson's never had a Braves game where he was not the first baseman on, in the first inning. He's literally never missed a game while he's been in Atlanta. But barring injury, they play the same guys every day. The only exception is catcher, where everybody rotates, and left field, where they've rotated guys through. They had Rosario and, a veteran in 2023. They had Kelenic out there last year. They've rotated guys through in left field. And the bench has been used for specific roles, right? They've tried to have a really good defensive guy in there. They've always obviously carried a backup catcher. They've tried to have a designated pinch runner on there. Like, they've had specific jobs. And when you look at the guys on Atlanta's bench and the roles that you could need, Profar doesn't make sense for any of those. It's something where defensive replacement. If you look at whether you look at fielding run value or outs above average, either way, Jurickson Profar is the worst defender on the Atlanta Braves roster. And obviously, Marcelo Ozuna exists, but he's not actually played in the field, right? So, -5 outs above average, -5 fielding run value for Jurickson Profar. I'm sorry, for Alex Verdugo. He is the worst defender on the roster. And so you're not going to put him in as a defensive replacement late in games, you're going to use Eli White, you're going to use Stuart Fairchild. When you look at actually playing outfield, and I broke this down in detail in the newsletter, but he's not good at the basic components of getting a good jump in the outfield, right? Reaction, burst, route, all of that. He's not good at that. He has a really big arm, but he's not very accurate with it. He grades out negatively on defense for the value of his arm. And guys actually advance bases more often against him than you would expect them to, or than the stats would project them to. So they're not respecting the big arm that is inaccurate. Pinch running. He's not fast. 21st percentile speed of 26.1 feet per second, but he's also not good at it. -1 base running run value this year, 18th percentile. He's lost value trying to steal bases at second base. He's lost value on extra bases taken. You remember he got thrown out a couple times at home, including an egregious one. I think it was against Boston, where he wasn't at the third base bag yet, and Jarren Duran had the ball in the outfield, and they sent him anyway. And then when you look at Verdugo as a pinch hitter, in the last 30 days, he's batting 194. And if you want to pinch hit somebody, you're going to pinch hit Drake Baldwin if you want a lefty bat. Now, if Drake Baldwin's in the lineup, that's different. But if you want a lefty bat to pinch hit, you're going to pinch hit Drake Baldwin, not Alex Verdugo. He doesn't do anything. So it makes sense that they would move on from him. And there's an interesting question. I promise I've been scanning the chat while you guys have, while I've been talking. There's a couple of these questions that I've tried to star and grab. But one of them from when I first set this show up, Stephen P., longtime listener of the show, says, I wonder if Alex Verdugo was angry. And I found a short video clip that best explains my feelings about if Verdugo was happy or not with getting designated for assignment.
At the end of the day, if you don't like it, play better.
That is Vaughn Grissom in 2023 in Gwinnett, explaining what he was told by Ron Washington when he found out that he did not get the Braves starting shortstop job. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, play better. I have no idea if Alex Verdugo is happy, disappointed, if he knew this was coming or what, but I can tell you, if you don't like it, play better. He is the one who decided if he was going to stay on the roster or not. So there you go. And in return now, you get Jurickson Profar back. The open question here, and I feel like we're going to get a little bit of answers today when Jurickson Profar meets for the media for the first time since his suspension, is what type of Jurickson Profar are we going to get? Because he had a career year last year, and I talked about this using clips from Alex Anthopoulos' press conference after they signed him. Atlanta pointed to mechanical stuff and what appeared to be sustainable changes that Jurickson Profar made going into last season. And then you have the PED suspension from a test over the winter. And so now we don't necessarily know what we're going to get out of him. But in AAA, what I can tell you, he batted .333 with a .407 on base and a .583 slug. He hit 3 home runs in 13 games, 8 walks to 6 strikeouts, had 9 RBI, scored 7 runs. Of his 16 hits, 6 were for extra bases, 3 doubles and 3 homers. Now, obviously, there's a difference in AAA pitching and Major League pitching, but he looked in that short glimpse of AAA to look like he is closer to the 2024 version of Jurickson Profar than the previous version. And Jeffrey makes a great point in the chat. He says, watch Profar rake for about 2 weeks. I would not be shocked. If you remember, I think Alex Verdugo's second game, he went 4 for 4. I would not be surprised if he comes up and immediately is somewhat successful. Ronald was. A lot of guys do that. The question's going to be, Can he sustain that or can he slow down? Ronald slowed down. He's like 1 for 22 since last Monday with like 13 strikeouts. Like he's slowed down a little bit, right? So you're going to get Jurickson Profar back. And Snit said on Sunday that he expects to be somewhere in the middle of the order. The quote was, I think we can move him around in kind of the middle of the order. The fact he's a switch hitter and all that's going to work out good. It really should be going to work out well, but whatever. Ronald's still going to lead off. Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to lead off. We don't know the lineup. I saw that question in the chat a couple times. We don't know the lineup as of now. I would expect Profar's probably batting fifth, fourth. Probably batting somewhere around fifth. The real question for me, and we're going to talk about this in just a second. The real question for me is, do we see other moves? Because I want to see a move made with Marcell Ozuna. We'll talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to a celebratory live edition of Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby talking about Alex Verdugo being designated for assignment, Jurickson Profar being back for tonight's game. And again, we do not have the lineup yet, but we are expecting him to be in the order. Somebody asked me this morning on social media why I had written 3 different columns, by the way, about Alex Verdugo needing to be designated for assignment before they finally did it. And last time I'm going to do this in the show, I'm going to play another short clip that kind of explains why I just have a thing against Alex Verdugo.
I'm a hater, man. I don't think you want to ask me that. I am a hater, so I'm going to just leave it at that.
Listen, Alex Verdugo to me just has not played well enough. Somebody had to go. It was going to be him over Eli White. It was going to be him over Stuart Fairchild because both of those guys give you something. Right now, Marcelo Ozuna's not giving you anything. And this is incredibly frustrating because he's been one of the only contributors to the offense in the last 2 years, right? 2023, everybody was great, okay? 2024, he hit 302 with a 925 OPS. He led the team in a bunch of categories while playing every single game. This year for Marcelo Ozuna, it has been a completely different story. And I see some of the things in the comments. Of course, the injured player isn't adding much, but they're still playing him every day. So if you remember the timeline of this, August 13th was the series finale in Tampa Bay. If I remember right, that was Joe Boyle on the mound. The only start he's made this year. He went like 6 scoreless or something nuts. Atlanta got blown up late and they lost. But Marcell came out of that game in the 8th inning with what ended up being a hip injury. He skipped the Toronto series. He flew back to Atlanta. They tested him in Atlanta. And he was back in the lineup on the 18th for the series opener against Minnesota, which was a sweep there. When he left the game, he was batting 306 with a 1.008 OPS. He was absolutely raking when he left. Since he has come back, and again, he came back in mid-April. Since Marcell has come back, he is batting 231 with a 708 OPS. His OPS has fallen 300 points. And a lot of that, not all of it, but a lot of it is his slugging. He went from a 477 on base before he got hurt to a 345, which is not great, right? But his slugging went from 531 to 364. In the 66 games since the injury, he's hit 8 home runs. He has a total of 16 extra base hits. It's not great. He's obviously not healthy. And since we started this streak of divisional games, he's even worse. He's batting 204 with a 538 OPS. His slug is 259. It's lower than his on base. And so what needs to happen here is Marcell Ozuna needs to go on the IL. We saw last night, he came up a little bit lame and was checked out in the dugout. And Snit said, I'm trying to find the quote from Mark Bowman, but said it was just cramping and Ozuna should play tonight. And I don't really understand why you're so insistent on putting him back in the lineup when you could go with the combination of Drake Baldwin and Sean Murphy. Put Murphy behind the plate. He is the better game caller. He is the better defender. That's no slight against Drake Baldwin. I just think Murphy is a very good game caller. As a pitching nerd, I'm in awe of what he does sometimes. Let Baldwin and Murphy DH. I don't know if time on the IL is going to help Marcell Ozuna. It's not going to completely fix the injury, right? He's going to need some sort of surgery or a long-term kind of thing. But one, it'll give you a little bit of offense. Because since June 1st, I'll let you guess who has a better OPS. Marcell Ozuna, your designated hitter, and your slugger, who has had 30 homer seasons in his career, or Nick Allen, who has had just a handful of barrels this season. And obviously, if I'm asking the question, Nick Allen's OPS since June 1st is better. And not only is it better, it's almost 60 points better than Marcell Ozuna. It's a 608 OPS for Allen, which isn't great. Ozuna's at 539. So you're fixing one offensive issue, we hope, by bringing back Jurickson Profar. Maybe you can fix a second offensive issue by giving Marcell Ozuna some time off, because that's the only position when where you have a better option available on the bench. You don't have a better offensive option for center field than Michael Harris, right? He hit a triple last night. It should have been an out. Jorge Soler misplayed that ball. Maybe he's going to turn it around. You don't have a better offensive option than Ozzy Albies. He has been there's 183 qualified players since June 1st. And the rule to be qualified is 3.1 plate appearances per team game. So you have to be in the starting lineup and play most of the game, right? Michael Harris's OPS of 451 is 180th out of 183. Ozzy Albies, his 527 is 175. Ozuna, 174. And so, that's obviously an issue. There's no easy fix for Ozzy Albies in this lineup. There's no easy fix for Michael Harris in this lineup. They gave him a couple of days off over the weekend. Eli White got on base, but I don't think he recorded a hit in those two games. And he misplayed a ball, his very first defensive opportunity on Saturday, I believe. Austin Riley has not been terrible. 699 OPS since June 1st. He's not been great. He's not been worthy of largest contract in franchise history. So you can't fix all of this at once. And I saw a question in the chat. Somebody's like, well, what do you do about these guys? Benching Ozuna is not going to help them hit better, but it's going to start to get you there. It's going to be some sort of improvement. Some of this is just going to have to be these guys on their own getting better. Maybe I need to just hold them down and play that clip of Vaughn Grissom. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, play better. We hear the comments about them being frustrated with the wins and or with the losses and everything. You're in control of this. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, play better. But with the status of the Braves right now, okay, being in fourth place in the National League East, being behind the Miami Marlins in the standings, it's starting to feel like, a lot of us thought this already, right? But it's starting to feel like we can go ahead and stick a fork in the Atlanta Braves. And if you want to aggressively start selling at the deadline, who should be safe and who should not? I want to hear from you. If you're here watching live on YouTube, throw it in the chat. We're going to do a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about this, because depending on how aggressive you want to be, this list could be 10 players long, and that's it for players that are safe. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby trying to figure out here what you do for the Atlanta Braves going forward. Because, again, with the loss, this team is, I'm going to say, dead in the water. There obviously is a chance now that it is July and Austin Riley is fantastic in July. There's a chance that him being back, Profar being back, maybe if they make a move with Ozuna and you can fill some black holes in the lineup, you absolutely maybe could see an offensive surge. But like them going over 7 with runners in scoring position last night kind of tells you, like, hey, the fundamental issues of this team are not getting better. And so you're 11 and a half games back. You're 8 games under 500. Even your vaunted positive run differential is down to +8 because the offense has been so bad. So if we're looking at moves to make, possible moves, right? Who could be safe? Here's the list I think that I have of position players and pitchers that would not be available. Now, granted, somewhat like even guys who I don't necessarily mention could potentially get moved if the offer was large enough, but position players, Matt Olson is not going to get moved. He would not get moved. Austin Riley, he's been underwhelming this year, but I still don't believe he would get moved. There's a lot of money left on there, and he is and he is playing okay enough, right? Ronald Acuna Jr. is not going to get moved. Now, I have written this story. I have written this newsletter about what would it take for the Braves to trade Ronald Acuna Jr. And it would take a lot, but it would not be made now. That move would, if they were to ever want to trade Ronald Acuna Jr., that move would be made in the offseason down the road. It would not be made right now, okay? Michael Harris would not be traded simply because his value is so low, right? You would not move a guy like Michael Harris, who has all this long-term control right now, because you would not get a properly valued asset for him. And if somebody else fixes him, you're going to feel like an idiot. So he would not get moved. Same strain. Nobody would take Jurickson Profar. Not with the suspension hanging over his head. Nobody would take him right now. Drake Baldwin, safe. Sean Murphy, probably safe. I don't think they'd move him at the deadline. It's really hard to move a starting catcher at the deadline. That would be an offseason move. I still don't think they should move Sean Murphy, but that would be an offseason thing. Position player-wise, that's it. That's all that I have on the list. Pitching, it's an even smaller list. My list of pitchers in the majors right now who should be safe is exactly 4 names. It's Spencer Schwellenbach, it's Spencer Strider, it's Grant Holmes, and it's Chris Sale. And the reason that Chris Sale is safe from being traded is the fact he's on the 60-man roster, the 60-day IL. That's just not a situation where you're going to be moving a guy like that right now. Not on the 60-day IL, when there's no knowledge of when he's going to come back and going into one final year with a contractual decision to make. That's it. Everybody else, I think, would be available. And here's the issue. Not a ton of those guys are going to get a massive return. I think if you were trying to maximize your return in trades, you're looking at the bullpen. One of the big ones to me is Aaron Bummer. Disclosure here, I am a fan of Aaron Bummer. I like what he does. I have seen some really good stuff under the hood, the inputs on Aaron Bummer. The reason that I would consider moving him is, one, they're not interested in using him. He has the stuff to be a higher leverage reliever. They've used him like twice in the last 2 weeks. And one of them was to take multiple innings in what ended up being a bullpen game. His salary jumps from $3.5 million this year to $9.5 million this year. I would offer Aaron Bummer in a trade. He's under team control for 26. Yes, it makes your 26 bullpen worse, but that jumps up $6 million. I'd offer him in a trade. Raisel Iglesias, they've rehabilitated him enough where a contender could pick him up as a setup man. I'd offer Raisel Iglesias. Pierce Johnson has a $7 million club option for next year. If somebody wants to take him, okay, I'm fine if you keep him. I really would love to keep Dylan Lee. He's making $1 million. He has 3 years of control. But Iñigo de los Santos, 1 additional year of control. Rafael Montero, if you could get anything for him, do it. There's so few assets you can really move here that you're going to get something for. And that's the hard part with this, is whether we like it or not, a significant portion of this lineup is going to be back next year. And so we can talk about the trades you need to make. We can talk about moving guys in and out, getting prospects or whatever. If somebody, I think anything you're offered of value from Marcell Ozuna, you should move him. But who would offer you something of value for Marcell Ozuna right now? AA's been trying to work on deals. He told us a couple weeks ago he was trying to make a trade to show everybody that he was serious about this roster competing, and he could not get a major trade done. All he got was a reliever from the Pirates DFA'd yesterday. But at the end of the day, these trades don't really matter. The Atlanta Braves have to figure out how they have broken this offense. Going into this year, the Braves have been one of the best offenses in baseball at hitting for power, at hitting home runs, at being aggressive at the plate. Yes, they struck out a lot. They never led the league in strikeouts, but they struck out a lot. But it worked because they got enough guys on base and they hit enough home runs to score runs. They're like second in baseball in runs scored over the last 4 years. The only team that's ahead of them is the Dodgers. And both teams have one World Series championship. This year, this offense is a shell of itself. And it's mostly the same players. And I know we point to losing Ron Washington or losing Freddie Freeman or losing Dansby Swanson. The problem is not the guys that left. It's the guys you brought in. It's the new voices of the coaches. It's something about what they're asking these hitters to do. They've tried to get them to be a lot more patient. And yes, I understand the idea of, hey, take a couple more pitches, make the pitcher work a little bit more. I get that. But almost all of the takes have replaced hitting pitches in the zone. I've talked about this with Michael Harris here on this show. Michael Harris is hitting almost 300 on pitches in the strike zone. Then why does he have one of the worst OPSs in baseball? Because he's not swinging a lot in the zone and he's swinging a lot outside of the zone. It's an approach issue. And the fact that we have comments from Tim Hyers and comments from Michael Harris where they say different things about what the problem is tells me that this idea of changing the approach wholesale of a major league roster full of long-term contracts was a terrible idea and did not work. And I am at the point, and Philip makes the exact point in the chat here that I was about to try to say here, is they should spend the back half of the schedule just trying to undo it. And the way Philip words it is great. Curious what would happen if Tim Hyers told the guys, hey, this isn't working. Do what you used to do, and I'll help where I can. And I think that's exactly what needs to happen. The Atlanta Braves need to go to these players and say, hey, we need to get back to being aggressive at strikes. Hitting strikes hard is a thing that the Braves have always been very good at doing. Crushing fastballs in the zone, taking advantage of your mistakes, being aggressive when they notice you throw a first pitch fastball or whatever. We need to get back to doing that. And Tim Hyers, his job should be, hey, if you're having issues catching up to these fastballs, let me see if it's your mechanical issues. Let me see if it's the way you're seeing the ball out of the hand. Let me see if I can figure out why the thing that you inherently do as a hitter is not working for you right now. instead of changing the approach of what you do. Because unlike almost every other team sport, baseball is very much still an individual game, right? You are the hitter at the plate. You are the only person batting at that moment in time. And it is a matchup between you and that opposing pitcher. And guys have so many private coaches. They grow up swinging a certain way. There are a lot of swings in baseball that are ugly, that don't work. Ozzy Albies at the plate is completely ugly. I get it. That is not fundamentally sound at the plate. And the performance has been like that for Ozzy this year, but it's worked out in previous years. And there's a question in the chat from Duck Disciple. I get it here. What was our issue last year when Tim wasn't here? They weren't as bad as we think they were last year. They weren't nearly as bad as this. I think some of that is the injuries. If you remember, the starting lineup was together for a grand total of 5 innings all season. And Seitzer was right when he said there was pressure on a lot of these guys. They were putting them too much pressure on themselves to try and produce. And also, I don't think it was as bad as we think. It feels like it was bad because 2023 was so good. This is legitimately bad. Last year was a down year for some guys, but you also had injury. You had Orlando Arcia batting 5th some nights. It's hard to expect competent offense when Orlando Arcia is batting 5th. This is different because you've had all these guys, like you have mostly the same guys from 23 and from last year. And almost every single player is worse. Even the guys that statistically were doing well this year. Marcell Ozuna started off super hot. He traded the home runs for walks. And now when he stopped walking, boom, there you go. And so I'm at the point I'm willing to sacrifice and punt the rest of the season in exchange for Atlanta being more aggressive at changing up the lineup, making moves like giving Marcelo Ozuna some time on the IL and playing the catchers every day, and fixing the offense by letting these players go back to what they always did. Talk to them about it before the All-Star break. Let them get the idea of that going into the All-Star break. Have them take a couple days off during the All-Star break because almost none of them but Ronald are going to go on the offense. And then after that, second half of the year, let them do what they've always done. Hey, go up there, hunt a fastball. Look for a pitch to hit. Look for a mistake in the middle, okay? This is the last year of Brian Snitker. We know that. That has been practically confirmed. And so likely when a new manager comes in, a new hitting coach is going to come in. That's just kind of typically how that works. You get a new manager, they typically bring in their own coaches, right? And so, and especially there's no reason to keep the ones you have here right now. I'd keep Kevin Seitzer. I'd consider keeping Kevin Seitzer, but that's it. And so what we need to do here is just let them have the back half of the schedule and say, hey, just go be a hitter. Just go down there, relax, be a hitter. Let's see what they can do. Because at this point, when you get shut out 3 times in 5 games with Ronald Acuna Jr., with Matt Olson, this is not just bad luck. But these guys have also not completely lost it. It's the same guys you had from 2023. This is a coaching and approach change. There's a little bad luck, sure. But this is all on the players, and this is all fixable. And so let them fix it. Back half of the schedule, let them fix it. Thank you guys for being here and for understanding the different schedule for a live Braves Today here on Wednesday, July 2nd. Do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave us a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when I drop an episode, when we go live to talk about something like Alex Verdugo no longer being on our favorite baseball team. And if you have questions, things like that, let me know. I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. Lots of different options there. I agree with you, Jeffrey. Kevin Seitzer is great. In retrospect, that was a huge mistake. Firing Kevin Seitzer was a huge mistake. But we'll talk more about that later. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.